Okay, okay, your objection's noted.
Okay, hold up. Blake Lively is now begging the judge to go easy on her after Taylor Swift just exposed the deep, dark secrets Blake thought she could bury forever. Yeah, you heard that right. Blake walked into court thinking this would be just another boring Tuesday.
I prepared my remarks and my decision here today.
Hair done, lip gloss perfect, PR smile locked and loaded. She expected a quiet, routine pretrial hearing. Some paperwork, a few polite nods, then out the door in time for lunch with Ryan. But nope. What she got was a public execution. Not literal, but career-wise, she flatlined.
I am glad I had the opportunity to spend the night to do some deliberation on this matter and think about it.
Judge Curtis Y.M. Lennox? This guy's seen it all, right? Courtroom stunts, drama, the whole circus. But Blake, she pushed him to the limit. Twice in 2 weeks. He literally stormed out of court, slammed his gavel and walked. Twice. Not even toddlers at daycare get bounced out that fast. And why? What pushed him over the edge? Redacted financial documents, hush money trails, cover-ups so shady they'd make a mob boss sweat. Blake, Hollywood's so-called Pinterest princess, handed over spreadsheets with half the numbers blacked out like some secret diary. Girl, this isn't your cute little preserve photo shoot with mason jars and overpriced jam. This is federal court. Why were those documents excluded? Because it was propensity evidence. Translation, proof she had done shady stuff before. Remember, Preserve, Blake's lifestyle brand, the one she promised would revolutionize authentic living? Yeah, well, turns out it was just a mask. A front for silencing employees, buying hush deals, and running a PR mafia behind the scenes. Now, Blake's begging the same judge she tried to deceive, asking for mercy, sobbing crocodile tears. Why? Because Taylor Swift's leaked texts and witness statements absolutely wrecked Blake's narrative like a wrecking ball smashing a glass house. Her lawyer quit. Her PR team imploded. Her reputation roasting on a spit. And now Blake's scrambling for pity like, please, Your Honor, ignore that time I threatened my best friend and paid off half my staff. Nice try, Blake. But when Taylor freaking Swift hands the court your private texts and the judge turns purple with anger, no skipping to the end credits. Let's talk about the infamous Aspen wine glass incident. One of Blake's former employees, visibly shaken, stood up and dropped the most disturbing HR horror story you'll ever hear. Flashback to 2015, Preserve's winter retreat in Aspen. Execs sipping wine, talking fonts. Except Blake, in full diva meltdown mode, allegedly throws a full wine glass across the room over a missed deadline. That glass didn't just miss, it hit a woman's shoulder, shattered, and left her needing 6 stitches plus nerve bruising, and it gets worse. Blake didn't just throw the glass, she then tossed a $40,000 settlement check at the victim to keep her quiet.
Kara Swisher, host of the podcast On with Swisher and Pivot, and Areva Martin, civil rights attorney. Areva, first to you. Thank you, ladies, also for being here on this holiday week. First to you. Now that there has been this complaint filed, a civil rights complaint, is this a precursor to a lawsuit?
All signed, sealed, and silenced under an NDA crafted with care. Under duress, no less. Hospital records labeled the injury a kitchen accident. Because apparently, when you work for Blake Lively, assault by glassware just means slipped while baking muffins. Charming, huh? Even worse. Leslie Sloan, Blake's PR puppet master, scrubbed the entire incident like airbrushing a Vogue cover. And if you're wondering if that evidence was included in discovery, nope. Even internal Slack messages showed staff joking about Blake's temper tantrums like it was a daily sitcom. The judge? He slammed his gavel twice and walked out again. Imagine that. A federal judge saying, "I'm out" mid-hearing. That's not legal drama, folks. That's reality TV. But wait, we're not done. Preserve, the brand that flopped so hard it deserves its own Wikipedia entry, didn't collapse from bad sales or branding. No. It crumbled under lies, abuse, NDAs, and chaos. Court docs reveal employees were working 60 to 80-hour weeks, underpaid, and threatened with termination if they dared ask questions like, "Hey Blake, why is our office a hostel dungeon?" One good question. But they couldn't. Ask it without risking their jobs, replaced by Instagram models instead. Hush money? Not 1 or 2 payments.
In fact, you're excused.
5 separate ones totaling over $200, buried under PR expenses.
Why it was excluded in the first place? Because it was propensity evidence.
Like she was just buying scented candles. Except instead of candles, it was silence.
Absolutely, Sarah. We should expect to see a lawsuit. And I can tell you, this is a very detailed 80-page complaint that has been filed with lots of details about the sexual harassment that Blake Lively says she experienced while working on a set of this movie from Baldani. Everything from unwanted kissing to conversations about the sex life of the producers involved in this movie, as well as conversations about pornography, showing of pornographic pictures. So it's a pretty salacious complaint. And then the allegations of the smear campaign about retaliation for making complaints about sexual harassment in the workplace and the creation of a hostile work environment.
Whistleblowers leaked unredacted financial records exposing it. All because Blake's team handed in reports looking like someone blacked out a CIA file with a Sharpie. Her excuse? Clerical discretion. Girl, no, that's not a typo, that's fraud. In Designer Heels, the prosecution held up the original documents side by side in court, showed the judge exactly what Blake tried to erase. And Blake's team, they gave Mao, the judge PR spin in federal court, trying to charm a dragon with a scented candle. What did Judge Lennox do? What any reasonable person would do. He walked out again, slammed his gavel, dropped the mic, and left the building. Because this wasn't a hearing anymore. It was a circus, with a blonde ringleader who thinks NDAs are loyalty oaths. Where's Blake now? Exactly where she deserves. No lawyer, no defenders, no fanfare, just drowning in legal quicksand, hoping the judge forgets when she tried too. Erase reality with a Google Doc and a PR intern's amicus brief. The only thing being preserved now? The receipts. And trust me, the prosecution has them all. One of the most shocking revelations was about an incident that took place in 2015 during a company retreat in Aspen. A female employee claimed that Blake Lively herself had thrown a full glass of wine at her during an argument. The glass shattered on impact, causing a serious injury that required 6 stitches. Instead of reporting the incident to authorities or handling it professionally, Blake reportedly paid the employee $40,000 in hush money to keep the event secret, labeling the injury as an accident in the kitchen. This event was just one example of how the company tried to sweep serious problems under the rug. Throughout the court hearings, the presiding judge, Curtis Y.M. Lennox, expressed clear frustration and disappointment with Blake Lively and her legal team. At one point, the judge even left the courtroom twice during the hearings, a very unusual action that signaled just how serious the judge considered the mishandling of this case. The judge was particularly upset by the way many of Blake's financial and operational documents were heavily redacted. Large sections were blacked out or missing, as if important information was being deliberately hidden from the court. The case also uncovered the use of hush money payments totaling more than $200,000, paid secretly to former employees and others to prevent them from speaking out publicly about the problems at Preserve. These payments were made in an effort to protect the company's public image and keep damaging stories from reaching the press. But the court found these tactics to be unethical and a form of witness intimidation. Another major aspect of the case involved allegations of sexual harassment by Preserve's creative director, Bernard Collins. Several employees came forward with complaints that Collins had behaved inappropriately, making unwelcome advances and creating an uncomfortable work environment. Blake initially denied any knowledge of these claims, but chat logs and emails shown in court proved otherwise. It became clear that Blake was aware of the allegations and chose to ignore them, and worse, may have actively enabled the toxic culture by protecting Collins and silencing victims. In a desperate move to gain public sympathy, Blake turned to her famous friends for support, notably Taylor Swift. Blake called Taylor her ride-or-die friend and publicly asked for her backing during the legal battle. But Taylor, known for her careful handling of public controversies, refused to comment on the lawsuit, citing respect for the victims and the legal process. This refusal reportedly angered Blake, who sent Taylor threatening messages demanding loyalty. Blake's texts suggested that their friendship depended on Taylor's public support, implying that everything could fall apart if she didn't back Blake. These private messages were leaked by Blake's former PR executive, adding fuel to the public fire and damaging Blake's reputation further. The court described these messages as an attempt to manipulate witnesses and intimidate key figures involved in the case. Throughout the trial, Blake's public relations team struggled to control the damage. They attempted to spin the story, presenting Blake as a misunderstood celebrity who was being unfairly targeted. But the judge was unimpressed, comparing their efforts to trying to calm a dragon with a scented candle. The legal battle has revealed the limits of celebrity privilege and the risks of trying to hide uncomfortable truths behind a polished image. As the case continues, the media and public are watching closely. Blake Lively's story has transformed. From a simple business dispute to a dramatic tale of power, abuse, and the consequences of covering up wrongdoing. It raises important questions about workplace ethics, the responsibility of public figures, and how much people are willing to sacrifice to protect their reputation. What happens next could be a turning point for Blake's career. If the court rules against her, it could mean the end of Preserve and serious damage to her public image. But beyond the business fallout, this case highlights the courage of employees who spoke out and the importance of accountability in every workplace. No matter how glamorous it looks from the outside,